joining us right now. We so enjoy not just hearing him question people aggressively, as he should, as he represents Ohio's 4th District, but we also like to think that he represents all of us too. Congressman Jim Jordan, ranking member on the Judiciary Committee, joins us, and I want to say he's got a new book out. I love the title of it, Do What You Said You Would Do, Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp. Plain and simple, there it is. Congressman, so good to see you.
Good to be with you. You were great last night. I caught you on I forget which show on Fox you were on after the election last night, and I thought you said it well when big government tries to get between moms and their kids, it isn't going to turn out well for big government. It isn't going to turn out well for... You said something to that effect. I thought it was right on target. That was the issue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that's true. And that kind of gets to the point, where at least Van Jones and some Democrats kind of recognize it. But I was thinking back to this, Congressman. We were talking about this a little earlier. During the 90s, we had the soccer moms. And then the early aughts, we had the security moms. That was after, in the wake of 9/11, moms were very interested in security and foreign policy. And not to discount dads, but moms are a little louder. And then now we have the school board moms. And again, not to discount dads, but, there's some about moms when you mess with their kids. The dads are the good cop. The moms are the bad cop. And that's kind of what we saw last night. Parents were fed up. And I watched, people like Oscar Nomani, people like Ian Pryor, Christopher Rufo, Alicia Andrews, all these parents standing up in Loudoun County, Fairfax County, all of these places. Huge victory. So what do Republicans do with that now? What is your take on last night?
Well, first of all, I think you're exactly right. I've said many times, no high-paid lobbyist is ever going to beat a mom on a mission to do what's best for their son or their daughter, their kids. So, yeah, we saw that play out. It was, I think my takeaway would be moms won, big government zero. I mean, that's what happened yesterday. So, yeah, I think Republicans are going to continue to say we want to stand up for parents and moms and dads. They know what's best for their kids. But Democrats are going after families in all kinds of ways. They're getting ready to raise their taxes. They said, oh, no, we're smarter than you when it comes to your kids' education. So we're getting ready to spend like crazy, drive up the cost of gas, the gas that it takes you, the cost of energy it takes you to take your kids to school, to get to work. So Democrats are going after families in a number of ways. We have to talk about those issues and say that we're going to fight this big government approach, all the bad policies they've done, and I think maybe even more basically, the threats that we've seen to Americans' First Amendment liberty. So that's how we win. And I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to win big in a year.
Republicans definitely have the product. It's all comes down to the messaging. And I was looking at some of the exit polling data. I have notes here from New Jersey, Virginia, of course, even some of for our little municipal election here in Texas. The driving issues, yes, it was schools that were shut down, the vaccine mask mandates, obviously critical race theory or institutionalized Marxist racism, which I prefer. But then also parents, just as you were saying, Congressman, are upset about the economy. They realize that we're dealing with inflation, and no matter how much the administration wants to talk about an increase of wage, it doesn't matter if it's being undercut by inflation and the printing of money, cost of gas, everything else. That's significant. And the messaging last night, Republicans have been very, very focused on that. Democrats have not been. Democrats fight Trump, and they fight a race that's not even happening. Whereas Republicans, Youngkin ran a statewide race. He didn't run a national race. McAuliffe ran a national race. What does that say to you about how Republicans should reach out to these? And in New Jersey, I mean, not to just interrupt myself, New Jersey is in play for Republicans now. So what is how? I mean, I feel like you guys just been given a massive Christmas present.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it's driven by just how bad the Biden administration has been. Everything they've touched has been bad policy. I mean, we went from a secure border to chaos. It looks like it's intentional and deliberate what they're doing, because each month it gets worse on the border. So we went from energy independence to the spectacle of the president of the United States begging OPEC to increase production. We went from relatively safe cities to crime going up in every major urban area. You saw pushback in these cities when they were trying to defund the police last night, and in Minneapolis and other places as well. We went from stable prices to record inflation. So all those factors, it's like, I think there was a survey, a polling earlier this week that said 71% of the country thinks we're on the wrong track. The question I ask is, who are the 29% who think we're on the right track, for goodness sake?
They're all in Austin, Texas, apparently.
Yeah, I guess. But when you have all these bad things happen, and then when you couple all that with this message on attacking moms and dads who simply showed up to school board meetings and said, don't teach this racist, hate America curricula to our kids. When you put all that together, that's why we might even win New Jersey. That's why Glenn Youngkin won the governor's race in Virginia, why they swept all statewide races, why they were able to win back the House of Delegates. I mean, that's what happens. And I think you're exactly right, Dana. I think this is going to build into next year because remember, even though it went great for us yesterday, the left is not going to stop. They're going to keep doing their. Pelosi's out today saying we're going to pass this $4 trillion, $5 trillion, whatever this thing turns out to be, this monstrosity of a bill. So we got to stay vigilant. We got to keep pressing and speaking out against all their crazy ideas and all the ways that they attack our liberties.
Talking with Congressman Jim Jordan of the great state of Ohio. And Congressman, you mentioned those that the Build Back Better. It sounds like BBB is dead. B to the third power might be dead because from what I understand, House and Senate are kind of going their separate ways. They're kind of giving up on this. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we'll see. Here's what I know. 4 times Nancy Pelosi has said that they were going to have the vote on a particular day. And each time they haven't had the vote. Twice she summoned, I mean, think about this. She summoned the President of the United States to come to Capitol Hill to close the deal, and he's 0 for 2. So they're 0 for 6. Then we had the election yesterday. We have had all the bad policies that Americans who are smart people have seen how bad it is for their country, for their family. And now they're going to, who knows what, the Senate's going to do something, the House is going to do something. We'll just have to see, but let's hope it doesn't pass. Let's hope nothing passes. It's all bad legislation. It's not just the number. It's the policy. I mean, it's all the crazy energy policy in this package. It's the tax increases that are coming on moms and dads and business owners. So let's hope it doesn't pass. And the good news is they're 0 for 6. We won the election yesterday. I think we're in a good position, and hopefully we can stop it.
Yeah, we're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan. His new book is out, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Do What You Said You Would Do: Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp. Congressman, you mentioned that budget package. What gets me, and I've heard this from so many campaign spokespersons, surrogates, and then Democrats themselves, be they in the Senate or the House, they honestly think that passing something like this, that's going to be the thing that turns around public sentiment in their favor. That's going to be the thing that helps Joe Biden. And to your point, I mean, we've seen the policies, we've seen what they're proposing in there. Are they that out of touch with the American people that they just think, well, we don't have it yet, so that's why we don't like Democrats, because we just don't have extra taxes?
Yes, I mean the Attorney General. When the Attorney General of the United States says in essence, getting the National Security Division to involved to look at parents and spy on parents at school board meetings, treating them as domestic terrorists, I think they're that out of touch. When the Attorney General does a settlement with Andy McCabe, saying we're going to pay you $1.8 million and your attorney fees, even though you lied to the FBI, even though you lied multiple times to the Inspector General, I think they're out of touch. When they're getting ready to pay $450,000 to people who illegally entered our country, I think they're out of touch. So, yeah, they probably do believe passing this terrible piece of legislation will help them because they've been wrong on everything else. Again, this is why we have to stay aggressive in speaking out against what they're doing, because they're not going to stop. The left is just determined to do bad things to the country. We have to continue to speak out. What you're doing is so important because they're going to keep going. They, even though they lost yesterday, even though all the policies are bad, they're going to keep going. We got to stand up to them every step of the way.
I feel like Republicans need to prepare for controlling the House coming up after midterms, quite honestly, because I mean, I'm already seeing some of that energy now, which brings me to I wanted to talk to you about your book, Do What You Said You Would Do: Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp. First off, congratulations on this.
Thank you.
And I know that it's coming out this month. And it gets in. This is your look into, or this is your perspective into what happened from 2016 and on, because there was a lot of fire focused on you in particular, because you were so incredibly visible, not just in the party, but also, obviously in the House, and ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. I mean, people are tipping you to, possibly be the next speaker. So I tell us about this book and your, because I find this fascinating, and you were one of the people that developed these past 4 years.
Well, thank you. Look, I always say we make the job too complicated. What did you tell the voters you were going to do when you ran for it? Go do that. If they elect you and you form that contract with your vote, go do what you said.
That is so refreshing. Not to interrupt you. That's so refreshing.
Yeah. And frankly, no one did it better than President Trump. I mean, he did more what he said he would do than any president, certainly in my lifetime. I think it was an amazing presidency he had. I want him to run again. So we talk a lot about that in the book. The one thing I tell people, I think they'll enjoy it. I think they will enjoy the read. I wrote every single word. I'm the old-fashioned way. Wrote it out on longhand on the yellow legal pad.
You wrote it. You wrote this book out on a yellow legal pad.
I did.
That's dedication.
I talked about how the Freedom Caucus came into existence. I talked about when we forced John Boehner out as Speaker. And then because of the nature of the committee assignments I have on Judiciary Committee, on Oversight Committee, I've just had the privilege of being involved in every big investigation. The IRS targeting investigation, was on the Benghazi Select Committee, talk a lot about that. And then, of course, the impeachment investigation and some of the things that happened in that 4 months intense time when we were in the bunker in the basement of the Capitol with Adam Schiff. And I tell a story in there when my colleagues stormed the bunker, when those of us were in there doing the deposition and they came in, and how Adam Schiff reacted. And then a lot of time about President Trump and the interaction, sort of the behind the scenes I had with the president, who is a good man, who really, truly loves this country and the people who make it special. And so I try to give the reader some insight into that as well. I think your viewers and listeners will enjoy it.
I think they would love it. And a last quick question for you, talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, his new book, Do What You Said You Would Do, Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp. You know, you mentioned some pretty big issues. Americans saw, I think, some of the greatest out in public. Usually this stuff is, under the table, behind the velvet curtain, so to speak. But you were right there, front row and center, to watch some of the biggest grabs, not just on American rights, but also to undermine free and fair elections. What is the scariest thing, past 4 years, scariest thing that you saw, that you were witnessing during your time?
What they tried to do to President Trump, the whole made up stuff with the fake dossier that was choreographed by the Clinton campaign, hiring Perkins Coie law firm, who hires Fusion GPS, who goes and hires Christopher Steele. It's all made up. And then they used that. They milked that as long as they could for 3 years with Robert Mueller. The day after the Mueller comes and testifies and does a terrible job, and we question him in the Judiciary Committee, the very next day, President Trump has a conversation with President Zelensky from Ukraine. And they use that, some anonymous whistleblower that only Adam Schiff's staff got to talk to, and they go through this 4-month crazy impeachment investigation, all on baloney. That to me was the scariest stuff. And then now you couple it with what they're doing to our rights. Every single right, Dana, we have under the First Amendment has been assaulted by the left over the last year. Oh, yeah. Every single liberty. So we talk a lot about that as well.
And they want to get rid of the Fourth Amendment and our privacy by having the IRS getting our bank accounts as well. Goodness,
that's scary.
Just another one of many reasons why that B to the third power can't pass. Congressman Jim Jordan, do what you said you would do, fighting for freedom in the swamp out this month. Everyone go and order it now. Let's make a great Christmas gift too. Because we got to get our Christmas gifts now, because thanks to Biden inflation, the supply chain crisis, you've got to get it now. Congressman, thanks so much. Appreciate your fight and appreciate your time with us today.
You too.
Thanks
so
much.
Keep it up. Thank you.